welcome back. We are very pleased to have Dustin Campbell with us. He, as Dan mentioned, survived a terrible little episode on ordeal on in the Buffalo River territory. And welcome to the show, Dustin.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I just asked him if he was missing school. He's kind of like gave me this shy grin of yeah, you know. So let's start with. Okay, you and your grandfather were going to, I've heard of the hailstone, and that was your plan, was to float the hailstone?
Yes, that was the plan, to make it all the way through.
So just kind of take us through, I guess,
was this your idea or your grandfather's
it was my idea. I've been wanting to go since I was about 7. You know, just adrenaline junkie.
Like,
so this was a...
Yeah, you must be.
Yeah, this was a lifelong trip that you've been planning forever.
It was, and you know...
And you've never been down the hailstone before?
Well, and tell people what the hailstone is.
It's right. It's the first stretch of the river. It's right when two other, I guess they're big old creeks that they merge to form the Buffalo River. And up there, it's really rough. They got boulders and all kinds of drop-offs.
Aren't there big drop-offs?
Yeah.
Now, are you an experienced canoeist, kayaker?
Yeah, I think my grandpa took me for the first time when I was 6 months old.
So you were both pretty experienced being out there in the water.
Yeah, and
so like no problem.
Yeah, there was no problem at all. The rapids were fine. You know, they were big, but they were real fun.
Well, set the stage for people. Now, were there rains before that, and was the water up quite high?
It had been raining all week. You know, I'd been watching the weather a whole lot. I was kind of disappointed. We went Saturday down. We went from Boxley right below up at the hailstone, and you know I was kind of disappointed because we'd always done that. And, you know, it's just like normal, wasn't real bad.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I was seeing that it was raining, gonna rain a lot Saturday night. So I'm like, we're going up there.
Okay.
And you know, it's kind of just like a adrenaline based.
Now, was your grandfather adrenaline junkie too?
Yeah, he's
ready to go. Okay.
But you had floated. You had done the hailstone before.
No, I had never. Done that. I'd always went right below it.
Because you have to have enough water. It has to be water.
Yeah, it has to be flooded to get up there.
So this was an ideal situation for you.
Yeah, it was.
And you were pumped.
That's what I've been dreaming about. Yeah, I was ready to go.
So take us through it. I mean, you're coming up to you pass where you've always been taken out before. The hailstone is next.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened.
Well, we got up there since it was so flooded. It's probably the highest I'd ever been on. And, you know, I was real excited about that. And I
bet you were.
Well, the only problem is that since it was so flooded, the water was up in the trees, and you know and trees were falling over, and so I had to. What got us is after set off all the events that just finally ended up bad was I had to go through a tree, and then there's
no other way to get around it. Had to go.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
And that's up there. There's a lot of places that it was getting where it was nearly impassable. So that's. I had to go. You
have to hike in here, don't you, with your boat?
No, we always thought that. That's why we had never done it before. But we got to. There was an old county road that we got to drive right up to. It. And you know, so I initially lost my paddle in the tree.
Oh dear.
Oh, so you're going through it, and the tree grabbed your paddle.
Yeah, because I had to go through a little space that was about 3 foot wide, and my paddle's about 8 foot wide.
Wow.
So that wasn't working.
And you were in a kayak.
Well, it's
canoe, or what?
It's an inflatable canoe.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a kayak, I guess.
Okay.
But those are more stable, aren't they?
Yeah, a lot more.
Yeah. So you're actually up the creek without a paddle.
Yeah, I literally was, and that was real rough. And so I got pinned up against a big old rock eventually, and you know my paddle got pinned up against it too. So my grandpa, he came down, and he got over by it, you know, and he grabbed mine and threw it to me, my paddle.
Oh, he got your paddle and threw it to you.
Yeah, he threw it to me. And then he eventually got stuck also, and you know, he tipped over, and he got pinned underneath the water, and so he lost his paddle.
Scary.
So after I got him, he got loose and we got out. You know, he was going with we used double-ended kayak paddles, and so luckily we put in a little single-ended paddle. So he had something. And
yeah.
So I would, you know, I'd go down through the rapids first, and I'd go slow to make sure he'd be able to make it because it was rough without a kayak paddle. And that's what got us. I was trying to go slow, and you know, whenever we kept turning around, making sure he was all right, and we finally went over. It wasn't bad at all.
I was that wasn't too so swift that you.
No, well,
that's what I would figure.
Yeah, where we tipped over wasn't bad. And it was. You know,
it just happened.
Yeah. So this became an unenjoyable situation at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, you're surviving, and
it did. It was at the very beginning, kind of. I saw because my grandpa wasn't doing. You know, he's getting up there and you know, he's not as young as he used to be.
Right.
And so
how old is your grandfather?
He's 62. And he, you know, he's gone all over the place canoeing and everything. And when I saw, you know, I knew absolutely nothing what we were getting into. And when I saw it, I'm just like, oh Lord, what have I got him into?
Wasn't worried about yourself, were you?
Yeah.
No, I knew that I could do it. You know, I just worried about him. But then we tipped over and finally got to shore, and I dragged my stuff out of the water and ran upriver to make sure he was all right, and just jokingly yelled at him and told him, I guess we're walking out of here now.
I guess you are.
But where was he had fallen out of the water, and he was on the other side of the river.
Yeah, he was on the other side of the river.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, so it was 5 o'clock Sunday, and that was the last time I ever saw him.
Yeah. So he got out, though, right?
Yeah, he got out.
And you knew he was probably going out to find help.
Yeah, well, I figured that that I would make it out before him.
Right.
Because, you know, there's like no earthly reason why I wouldn't make it out before him. But, you know, I
never underestimate the power of a senior, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. You know,
A determined grandpa.
See, even though we may be older and feeble, we still have a little knowledge floating around up there.
I constantly prayed the whole time that he would make it out before me. I knew that there's no chance in the world he was going to, but I constantly prayed that he would.
Well, maybe that helped.
Yeah.
That's for sure. There's no way that he wouldn't have been able to.
There wasn't any way to cross the river either. I mean, I'm sure by this time it was
Somehow he did get across the river, though. He got
Really?
on my side. He shouldn't have, because the other side was a whole lot easier than my side. It was most of it was just
What's his story behind that?
Well, he was trying to find me. He got across the river, and, you know, we were going to try and meet up, try and go down river and try and find a place, but I never saw anywhere to. And before I even started going, I was having trouble because my canoe is so heavy. It's about 50 pounds. And then I had a bucket, so I was having to carry the canoe with one hand.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good grief.
And I had to drag it, and, you know, I was getting caught on rocks and everything. So, he walked upriver trying to find me when he got to my side, and I was having trouble to start out with figuring out how in the world I was going to carry that thing. So he thought I was in front of him, and I thought that I was in front of him too. So, you know, we just went on hoping that, you know, we knew where we were going, you know, how we were going to get there. You know, we'd meet up when we got down to.
What was the sound of the river kind of deafening? I mean, you couldn't holler at each other. I mean, just really loud.
Yeah.
So that had a factor into it.
Yeah. That's
so he gets out, and you have to stay what, one night, two nights? 2 nights.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
Well, I had my canoe deflated, so I folded it up and I folded it in half, kind of end over end, and I just got in it. And the sides of it, it's pretty stiff rubber. So I put my arms in the sides, and, you know, I folded it up to where it made, you know, it was a real tight air sealed. So my body heat stayed in, you know.
Good job.
I took off my jeans because they were real wet, my jeans and socks and shoes. And, you know, I stayed really warm. I mean, it was actually real comfortable. I slept better out there than I did since I have been at home.
Well, and my understanding is you're an Eagle Scout too.
Yeah.
You have you have knowledge.
Yeah, if I wouldn't have been in Boy Scouts, you know, like everyone jokes at me and laughs about being in Boy Scouts and everything, but I'm like, I'll send you out there and see how you do.
Exactly.
Well, it's the fear of not knowing is what people have trouble with when they're trying to in a survival situation.
Yeah,
you were probably more comfortable than the average person
I never
out there.
I never got scared or anything. You know, I knew exactly what I was doing, and you know, I prayed a lot, so I knew that God, if it was, you know, if His will, we were getting out of there. But if there wasn't, there's nothing I could do about it. So I'm just gonna have fun while I'm doing it. You know, I had a good time actually. You know, it was just.
But I'm sure you're worrying about your grandfather.
Right.
That was probably
they were worried about you.
Yeah, that's the only problem is that didn't know.
Yeah.
But you know, I was out there doing what I loved. So I got to survive. You know, out there surviving. You know, without any help.
For real.
Good. So let's.
Greatest grandma's over going. Yeah, whatever.
So let's fast forward to the day they found you. Was a helicopter involved?
Yeah, it was
right?
a helicopter that spotted me. I had left my canoe and bucket the day, like an hour before the helicopter found me. You know, I had a roll of trash bags in the bucket, and I grabbed them. I knew if I was going to have to spend it, I was going to go as fast as I could and try and get out of there. But I knew if I wasn't going to have the canoe for shelter, so I was going to plan on getting in a trash bag or something, you know, to kind of take shelter at night. So I just took off. I left everything and headed off as fast as I could. And I was coming up a real steep ridge, and I heard the helicopter. And at first, I thought I was hearing stuff. You know, I thought this is going to be pretty bad if I'm already getting to where I'm hearing stuff. And you know, so I waited, and then I saw it go over. And, you know, then I thought, you know, it's just like a random hospital helicopter.
Right. Yeah.
And then I heard it. I heard it at first, and you know, it was real loud. And it was coming right over to the top of the river. just
Wow.
it going
So
real
you-
slow. So I took off running and rolling and sliding down the ridge as fast as I could. Because, you know, I knew that I could make it out, but I was getting kind of tired, and I didn't know about my grandpa.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't know
Yeah.
he was out, you know, so I'm like, I can't let this pat go by. So I ran down there, and finally after, you know, I missed it the first time. I got tangled up in some briars and got stuck, and I couldn't get out.
So the helicopter went on?
Yeah, it went by.
Okay.
Oh.
And, you know, then I'm like, well, you know, I can't just, I'm not getting out if I just stay here. So I started walking along the river, and then I found an open spot. It was like the openest place I was going to get. Right, it was right by a bluff. And I'm like, I'm going to have to, if I'm getting out, by the helicopter, I'm going to have to stay here. Because it was you know, they'd be able to see me. So I'm like, I'll wait about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'll head off. And it passed over me about 5 different times. And, you know, and I couldn't flag it down. And then it came right, then I heard it real loud, and it was the trees across from me, across the river. You know, when it was so loud, I started praying that it would just come right over the top of me and maybe give me a chance. And it did. I nearly started crying because I was so happy. I was so happy whenever, you know, that my prayers were answered, that it came right over the top of me, and that was amazing.
What portion of the river were you at when the helicopter found you?
I mean,
Something that we could relate to. Do you know?
Well, at Boxley, the Boxley Bridge, that's where that's the second section of the river where you normally put in. And then the Hellstone is up above it at the very beginning. And I was 1.5 miles from the bridge.
Okay.
So I could have made it. I was hoping I'd be able to make it out by the end of Tuesday night if I had to keep on going.
So tell us what it was like when you got to see your grandfather again.
I was happy. I mean, you know, whenever I got out, everyone was, you know, happy and crying, and everyone was telling me, you know, it's all right, I don't got anything to worry about. And I was like, you know, you guys are the one worrying. I'm fine.
I'm cool.
And then me and my grandpa, you know, we were just standing there. I gave him a hug, and he said, yeah. I told him that I was glad he was all right, and he said, yeah, I knew that you're probably worrying about me. And then, you know, we just started swapping stories and, you know, laughing and telling each other what we did.
So are you planning your next adventure?
Yeah, we started planning it Wednesday.
Oh, cool.
Go back to the same place?
Yeah, I'm going to. I don't know when I'm going. You know, I'm going to be more prepared next time. I'm going to take more people because that's.
What?
Did you have food?
I had an apple sundae, and then I had a pack of crackers, but you know I ate one.
And no water.
I ate one of them Monday. I had a half a bottle of water, but you know I had a rain poncho, and I'd lick the poncho, and you know I'd get water. It'd constantly rain, so I'd get water off of my hat.
Yeah.
And you know the bucket I had, whenever I'd stop and rest, it'd pull up in the lid of the bucket, so I'd drink it.
Right.
Because you know I never got hungry or thirsty, but I knew that you know I had to keep drinking something, or I was going to get dehydrated, and then I was going to be in trouble.
Right.
But I knew that you know if I had to, I could last out there for a long time. You know I could do without food for a good bit, and you know if I had to, there were streams and stuff. I was going to get water.
Right.
And if it took me 2 weeks, I knew I was going to, as long as I didn't fall and die, I was going to crawl out of there if I had to.
Well, I'm sure your family
Amazing.
had some sleepless nights over this whole thing, and grandmother's over there
Yes,
shaking her head.
I
Yes.
told them I'm 100% positive that I slept a whole lot better than they did those 2 nights.
Well, you're lucky you didn't have a broken bone or a
that's
concussion
something like
or
that
something like that.
Yeah, that would have made it real rough.
That would have
well,
certainly made it more of a challenge.
that was an amazing story, and I know you're going to be prepared the next time you go out there.
Yeah, I'm going to be more prepared next time.
Yeah. Did you have a phone or anything like that
No.
with you?
I'm glad
And,
that I guess he had told y'all where he was going or where they were going to, you know,
Yeah.
so they knew, obviously.
Probably no phone service
Yeah,
out
there's
there. No
even
service at all.
like
There's-
out
yeah,
in the
there's
main
nothing.
town, like a Ponca and stuff. You're not getting.
There's no
and I mean,
service.
it's pretty much it's a gorge.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Well, Dustin, it's nice to meet you.
Amazing.
Glad that you're in the flesh today.
I am
with
Thank
us.
too.
you for sharing your story.
Oh well, thank you for letting me.
Yeah.
And the
glad
next
to
time
have
you
you
go
on.
out, I'm sure you'll have a lot of stories to tell.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'll remember this for.
You got bragging
Long
rights
time.
now, don't you?
Yeah, that's for sure.
You know those T-shirts that says "I survived the Buffalo River." You certainly
You
have.
can work, yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Thanks, Dustin.
They need to put your face on. one.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
We're gonna go to a little interview that we did with the superintendent of Park Service. This is kind of related to what went on down there with Kevin Cherie. He's the new park superintendent, and you'll hear about some of the things that are going on down at the park, down at the Buffalo River.
Well, right now, the main thing is trying to deal with the amount of damage that has occurred to the river as a result of the continual rains we had the past week. The tremendous amount of water that has fallen has caused significant flooding, and in the process, we had the river rise as high as 37 feet. We've got roughly about 4 inches worth of rain. Now, with that damage comes the concerns over resources that were both natural, cultural resources, our facilities, and of course the most important, visitor safety. So in order to address this problem that we've had, we've brought in a team of people from our Midwest region. These are various professionals from different parks that make up what we call an incident management team that comes to help parks in situations like this where they're slightly overwhelmed with the amount of work involved in addressing a disaster like this and trying to coordinate their efforts so that they can do their best to get back to normal operations. And so that's exactly what we're in the process of doing. The best and most important thing that people can do for us is to have a little patience with us as we work through this effort. This type of an event has a significant impact not only on the many people who live in the area or come from surrounding areas to recreate here and enjoy the beautiful Buffalo River, but also for a lot of the people who depend heavily on their livelihood as a result of that tourism and the impacts of the people who come here and bring business to them. If people are looking to visit the park, they should visit our website. They should call the numbers we've given, our contact stations, and find out the latest information on what is open, what has been closed, so that, it would just make for a better experience for them, a safer experience for them, and a lot easier for us to work through the challenge of just trying to get the park back up and running to its normal operation.